The desert was endless, golden waves of sand stretching to the horizon under a merciless sun. A single human walked alone, his lips cracked, his throat dry, and his uniform torn from battle. His name was Daniel, a soldier from Earth caught in a war that seemed far beyond human scale. His unit had been destroyed, and he had wandered for days with nothing but the last drops of water in a battered flask. Every step felt heavier than the last. The desert wind carried whispers of the battle he had survived, the clash of alien blades and human rifles, the cries of men and creatures that now lay silent beneath the sand. He had expected to die out here, but still he walked, stubborn in a way only a human could be. Then he saw her dot at first. Daniel thought the shape half buried in the sand was another fallen soldier. But as he drew closer, he froze. The figure was not human. She was tall and graceful even in collapse, her skin a shimmering blue that glowed faintly beneath the harsh sun. White braided hair spilled across the sand like threads of silver, and she wore golden armor cracked with battle scars. Her chest rose and fell weakly, and her lips were dry and trembling. Daniel knelt beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing a storm of silver and green that seemed to pierce right through him. She looked at him with a mixture of fear and pride, as though even dying she refused to bow. Her throat made a sound, soft and broken. Daniel realized she was trying to speak, but no words came out. He reached for his flask, the very last of his water. For a long moment he stared at it. This water was his life. Without it, he would not last another day. Then he looked at her again. Something inside him moved. Maybe it was pity. Maybe it was the stubborn refusal to let even an enemy die helpless. Or maybe it was the strange beauty of her eyes that made him feel as though she was more than a stranger on the battlefield. He uncapped the flask and lifted her head gently. She tensed at his touch, but her body was too weak to resist. He tilted the water to her lips. She drank. The drops seemed to revive her instantly, color returning to her face, strength flickering in her eyes. She looked at him with shock, as though unable to believe what he had done. Her lips parted, and in a voice rough from thirst, she whispered a word in her language. Daniel did not understand it, but the way she said it carried a weight that made his heart beat faster. Her hand, armored in gold and etched with alien symbols, reached weakly to touch his arm. "Why, give?" She managed to speak in broken common tongue. Daniel shrugged, though his voice was hoarse. "Because you needed it more than me." For a moment, silence hung between them. The desert seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, an exhausted human soldier and a wounded alien princess, bound by water and a choice. Her gaze softened, her pride bending into something gentler. "Human, strange," she whispered. "You give life." He almost laughed, though his throat burned too much to allow it. Strange was one word for it. Foolish, maybe. But as she rested her head back and closed her eyes, trust flickering in her expression, Daniel realized something had shifted. The war had left him broken and alone. Yet in that desert, with the sun burning above and the sand endless around them, he had saved someone who should have been his enemy. He had given her his water, and with it, something more than life. As the wind carried dust across the dunes, Daniel sat beside her, guarding her fragile breath against the silence. He did not yet know who she was, or what fate his choice had sealed. But deep in his gut, he knew this moment was only the beginning. The desert night was cruel. The heat of the day had drained into the sand, leaving the air sharp and cold. Daniel sat close to the alien woman he had saved, his body aching from exhaustion, but his mind too alert to rest. Every sound, the shift of sand, the distant cry of unseen beasts, made his hand tighten around his rifle. Beside him she stirred. The faint glow in her skin shimmered against the moonlight, as if her very blood carried starlight within it. Her silver-green eyes opened slowly, and this time they held more strength than before. She studied him, her gaze sharp, curious, and almost searching. "You," she said in broken human tongue. her voice hoarse but steady. "You give water." Daniel gave a half smile, though his lips were cracked. "Yeah, I wasn't about to watch you die." Her expression shifted. A strange mix of wonder and something heavier, something like respect. She raised a trembling hand to her chest, where an ornate crest glimmered faintly on her armor. Her fingers traced it before she pressed her palm flat against her heart. "In my people," she said slowly, each word careful. "Water. Sacred. Water is." "Bond." She looked at him with intensity. "You give water. You." "Claim me." Daniel blinked, caught off guard. "Claim you?" She nodded firmly despite her weakness. "Sacred vow. Life for life you give." "I am yours." Her words echoed in his mind. He had meant it as a simple act of kindness or desperation. But to her, it carried a meaning far deeper. He shook his head. "I didn't do it to own you. I just didn't want you to die out here." Her lips curved faintly, not quite a smile, but something close. "You do not understand. My bloodline. I am not common." She touched the golden crest again. "I am Ziyara, Princess of the Seraph Dominion." The title hit him like a blow. He had heard of the Seraph warriors feared across the stars, rulers of dozens of worlds. Their princess was worth more than fleets of ships, and somehow she was lying half-buried in sand, saved by a half-dead human soldier. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "A princess, huh? That explains the shiny armor." Ziyara tilted her head, studying him as though he were the strange one. "You speak with no fear," he smirked weakly. "If I started fearing every alien princess I ran into, I'd never get through the day." For the first time, she let out a soft sound that almost resembled laughter, though it was broken by pain. She leaned back, her breath shaky. The faint glow in her skin pulsed like firelight beneath her veins. Daniel shifted closer. "You're still weak. If we're going to get out of this desert, you need rest." Her eyes narrowed slightly, sharp again. "No rest, hunters come. My enemies chase." That made him stiffen. "Hunters?" She nodded, her braids shifting across the sand. "They want me dead. Or taken. You give water. Now you mark too." Daniel sighed, the weight of her words settling on him. He had been running from death already. Now it was chasing him for another reason entirely. "Figures. I can't catch a break." Ziyara looked at him with something fiercer than before. "You regret?" He met her gaze, steady. "No, I'd do it again." For a long moment, neither spoke. The desert wind whistled over the dunes, and the stars burned cold and bright above them. Then, slowly, she leaned toward him, her hand brushing his arm as if testing the bond she believed existed between them. "You are human," she whispered, almost to herself. "Weak world. Fragile body, yet you give life when all else take. I think." Her eyes softened. "I think fate sent you." Daniel wasn't sure he believed in fate. But as her hand lingered on his arm and her silver-green eyes locked with his, he felt something stir within him, a spark of connection that went deeper than words. The desert no longer felt so empty. The night had only just begun to cool when the silence of the desert was broken. Daniel heard it first, a faint rumble, too steady to be the wind, too sharp to be shifting sand. He stiffened, gripping his rifle, his eyes scanning the dunes. Ziyara's hand closed around his wrist. Her silver-green eyes gleamed faintly in the moonlight. "They come," she whispered. Her voice was steady now, though her body still carried the weakness of her wounds. "Hunters." Daniel crouched lower, his heart pounding. He had no backup, no comes, and barely enough ammunition for a fight. But the look in her eyes told him there was no choice. Whoever hunted her was close, and if they found her, she was finished. The rumble grew louder. Shapes emerged on the horizon, dark silhouettes moving fast across the dunes. Sleek alien riders, their beasts snarling as they tore through the sand. Each hunter carried long, jagged weapons that glowed faintly blue, leaving streaks of light in the air as they raised them high. Zayara's hand tightened around his wrist. "They smell my blood. They will not stop." Daniel exhaled slowly, forcing calm into his chest. "Then we make them stop." He set her gently against the base of a dune, trying to shield her with the slope. She looked at him with fire in her gaze, as though she wanted to rise and fight beside him, but her body betrayed her. He shook his head. "Stay down. Let me handle this." He rose as the riders closed in. His rifle felt too light in his hands, the magazine too empty. The beasts let out piercing cries as their masters raised their weapons. The first hunter lunged down the dune, charging straight at him. Daniel squeezed the trigger. The rifle barked fire, and the first burst of bullets ripped into the rider, knocking him from the saddle. The beast roared, throwing sand into the air, before bolting into the darkness. The others slowed, surprised by resistance. Then, with a chorus of alien war cries, they surged forward. Daniel dropped behind the dune, rolling into cover as blue energy bolts hissed overhead, scorching the sand where he had stood seconds before. His pulse thundered. He peeked up, firing another burst, dropping a second rider. But for every one that fell, more circled like wolves out behind him. Zayara's voice rang out, firm despite her weakness. "You cannot fight them all. You will die." Daniel gritted his teeth, shoving another half-empty magazine into the rifle. "Then I'll take as many as I can with me." The hunters regrouped, spreading out to encircle him. One dismounted, approaching on foot with a blade that crackled with alien energy. Daniel braced himself, waiting until the hunter was almost on him before firing. The bullets sparked against the blade, but one caught the alien in the throat, dropping him into the sand. A shadow loomed to his side, the beast of another hunter, jaws wide. Daniel swung the rifle up too late. The beast slammed into him, throwing him hard into the sand. His weapon skittered from his grip. The beast snarled, its teeth inches from his face. Hot breath burning his skin. Suddenly, a flash of golden light cut through the air. The beast roared in pain, stumbling back. Daniel turned to see Zayara, half standing with her broken strength, her hand outstretched. The crest on her armor glowed, humming with strange energy. The hunters froze at the sight, murmuring in their tongue. Their prey was not just a fugitive, she was the princess, alive and defiant. Zayara's voice carried across the dunes. "Leave now, or face the wrath of Sereth blood." The hunters hesitated, fear flickering in their stance. But then their leader raised his blade, pointing at her. "The princess belongs to us," he snarled. "The human will die, and her bloodline ends tonight." Daniel snatched his rifle from the sand, his chest burning, his body screaming with exhaustion. He looked at Zayara. She was pale, shaking, but her eyes blazed with unyielding fire. "Guess we're doing this together," Daniel muttered. Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Together, the hunters charged again, their weapons glowing, their beasts shrieking across the dunes. Daniel raised his rifle, Zayara raised her hand of light, and the desert became a battlefield once more. The sand was scorched black where the hunters had fallen. Smoke drifted on the cold desert wind, and the cries of beasts faded into silence. Daniel stood trembling, his rifle heavy in his hands, chest heaving with every breath. The magazine was empty. He had nothing left but grit and stubbornness. Beside him, Zayara slumped to the ground. Her glow had dimmed, her strength drained by whatever power she had unleashed. Yet her eyes were still fierce, watching the horizon for more pursuers. "They will come again," she said, her voice thin but resolute. "Hunters never stop." Daniel dropped into the sand beside her, his body aching. "Great, just what I needed. Round 2. She tilted her head, studying him. "You could leave. Walk into the desert. Save yourself." The words hit him harder than the battle had. He turned to her, his jaw set. "Leave you?" After I dragged you through this hell? After giving you the last of my water?" He shook his head. "Not happening." Zayara's lips curved faintly. "You speak like fool." "Yeah," Daniel muttered. "Been told that before." For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the hiss of wind over the dunes. Then Zayara leaned back, her gaze lifting toward the stars. "In my people's law, water is sacred. You gave it freely. You do not understand the weight, but you carry it now. My life is tied to yours." Daniel frowned. "Sounds a lot like a chain." Her gaze flicked to him, steady and unyielding. "No, it is choice. Sacred bond cannot be broken, but you choose how to honor it." He looked out across the dunes. He had no map, no supplies, no hope of rescue. By all logic, he should abandon her. She was a beacon for death, and her enemies would hunt them both to the ends of the desert. But when he looked back at her, pale and scarred, yet holding herself with a queen's pride, he knew his choice was already made. "I'm not walking away," he said firmly. Her eyes softened, the fierceness fading for a heartbeat. "Why?" Daniel shrugged, though his chest tightened. "Because I don't leave people behind. Not my friends, not my enemies. Not you." Zayara's hand lifted slowly, her armored fingers brushing his arm. The touch was light, tentative. "Strange human," she whispered. "Others kill for power. You give without reason. Dangerous, but different." Before he could answer, the horizon flickered with light torches moving across the dunes. The hunters had regrouped. Daniel cursed under his breath, forcing himself to his feet. "We need cover. Somewhere they can't surround us." Zayara's eyes scanned the desert. "There is a place. Old ruins. South of here. If we reach them, I can call aid." "Ruins sound better than dying in the sand," Daniel said. He helped her stand, her weight pressing against him as they stumbled forward. Step by step, they moved across the dunes, the flicker of torches chasing them like predators. As they walked, Daniel kept glancing at her. She leaned heavily on him, yet her eyes burned with determination. She wasn't just surviving, she was defying her fate. "You really are a princess," he muttered. Stubborn as royalty, she gave him a tired but proud look. "Princess does not bow. Not even to death." The words struck him, filling him with a strange pride of his own. He tightened his grip on her, steadying her as they pressed into the night. Behind them, the hunters' cries rose once more. Ahead, the ruins loomed faintly against the stars, ancient stone half buried in sand, whispering of forgotten civilizations. Daniel swallowed hard, his throat raw. He knew this was madness. He knew the odds were impossible. But he also knew one thing beyond doubt. He had chosen, and he would see it through. The ruins rose out of the sand like the bones of giants, half-buried arches and broken towers glowing faintly under the desert moon. Daniel and Zayara staggered into the shadows of stone, the cries of hunters fading behind them. For the first time in hours, there was silence. Zayara leaned against the wall of a shattered archway, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion. The faint glow in her veins flickered, weaker now, but still alive. She looked at him, her silver-green eyes steady despite her weariness. "We are close. My people hide beyond here." Daniel raised an eyebrow, wiping sweat and sand from his brow. "Your people? You mean you've had backup this whole time?" Her lips curved faintly, not quite a smile. "Not backup. A sanctuary. But it is not safe for you." Before Daniel could ask, the sand shifted nearby. Figures emerged from the ruins, tall, armored Seraph warriors with spears glowing blue. Their eyes burned with suspicion as they surrounded the pair. One of them barked words in their alien tongue, sharp and accusing. Zayara straightened, though her body trembled. She raised her crest-mark hand, her voice commanding. "I am Zayara, Princess of the Seraph. Lower your weapons." The warriors froze, stunned. Then, almost as one, they dropped to one knee. Their voices rose in unison. "Princess," Daniel blinked. One moment they were ready to skewer him, the next they were kneeling. He glanced at Zayara. "Guess you weren't kidding about being royalty." She ignored him, her gaze locked on the leader of the warriors. "Take me to the council, now." They moved quickly through the ruins, deeper into hidden chambers lit by alien crystals. The air grew cooler, the sand giving way to stone floors carved with ancient runes. At last they entered a vast hall where the Seraph Council waited, elders in flowing robes, their faces etched with age and pride. The moment Daniel stepped in, every eye turned to him. Their stares were sharp, filled with disdain. One elder, his voice heavy with authority, spoke in the common tongue for Daniel's benefit. "Human filth. Why is he here, princess?" Daniel bristled, but Zayara raised her hand. "He saved my life. He gave me water in the desert. By our law, his act binds us." The council erupted in harsh voices, their language snapping like fire. The elder slammed his staff against the ground, silencing the chamber. "Unacceptable. A human cannot hold the bond of water. It is sacred. He is unworthy." Daniel's fists clenched. He wanted to shout back, but Zayara spoke first. Her voice cut through the hall like a blade. "He is worthy. Without him, I would be bones in the sand. He fought hunters with no army. He gave what little he had, though it cost him everything." The elder sneered. "He gave because he is foolish. A weak creature from a weak world. He does not know our ways." Zayara stepped forward, her body swaying from fatigue, but her eyes blazed with fire. "He gave because he is human. And humans choose differently." Daniel's chest tightened. For all her pride and power, she was standing up for him before her entire people. The council fell into silence. At last the elder spoke again, his tone cold. "If he is to claim bond with you, let him prove it." "By trial," Daniel frowned. "Trial?" The elder's eyes glinted. "If he survives, he may stand beside you. If he fails, the desert will claim his bones." Zayara turned to Daniel, her face pale, her voice quiet but sharp. "You do not have to do this. They will kill you." Daniel met her gaze. He thought of the desert, of giving her the last of his water, of choosing to stay when leaving would have been easier. He thought of her hand on his arm, her voice saying, "I am yours." He squared his shoulders. "Then I'll survive," the council murmured, but Zayara's eyes softened, almost in pain. She whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "Strange human." Daniel smirked, though his stomach twisted. "You keep saying that. Maybe it's true." The elder raised his staff. At dawn, the trial begins. The first light of dawn spilled across the ruins, painting the sand in gold. Daniel stood in the center of an ancient arena, his hands tight around the grip of a borrowed blade. His rifle had been taken from him too unworthy for the trial. The Seraph elders had set stone walls curved around him, carved with runes that shimmered faintly in the rising sun. Seraph warriors lined the edge, their expressions hard and expectant. The council elders sat above, watching with cold eyes, and Zayara stood apart, her armor gleaming, her silver-green gaze locked on him. Her lips were pressed into a line, pride and fear warring in her expression. She could not fight for him, this was his test. But her eyes never left him, and Daniel felt her presence like a flame in his chest. The elder raised his staff. "Human, you claim the sacred bond of water. Prove you are worthy. Survive the trial." The ground shook as a gate opened. From the shadows lumbered a beast towering, six-legged, armored in jagged scales. Its eyes glowed with cold hunger, and its roar rattled the stones of the arena. Daniel muttered under his breath. "Of course. Big monster. Should have guessed." The beast charged, sand spraying beneath its massive legs. Daniel dove aside, rolling to his feet. The blade in his hand felt useless against its armored hide, but he gritted his teeth. He had come too far to die now. He slashed as the beast lunged. Sparks flew as the blade scraped against scales, barely leaving a mark. The creature's tail whipped around, striking him hard. Daniel flew backward, crashing into the sand. Pain exploded across his ribs. Above, the council murmured in satisfaction. To them, this was already over, but Zayara stepped forward, her voice ringing out. "Rise, human!" Her words cut through the pain. Daniel pushed himself up, spitting sand from his mouth. He remembered the desert, the moment he gave her water. He hadn't done it for glory, or law, or tradition. He had done it because it was right. He faced the beast again, his mind sharpening. If brute force wouldn't work, then he had to think like a human. The beast roared and lunged again. Daniel dodged, rolling beneath its legs. His hand scraped against the sand, and he felt the sharp edge of broken stone. An idea sparked. He snatched the shard, jamming it into the softer flesh between the beast's scales. The creature bellowed, stumbling. Daniel seized the chance, climbing its back as it thrashed. He drove the blade into its exposed joints, not striking with power, but with precision. Every move was desperate, but every strike counted. The beast bucked wildly, slamming against the walls, but Daniel held on, fueled by stubbornness and sheer will. At last, with a final thrust into the base of its skull, the monster let out a dying roar and collapsed into the sand. The arena fell silent. Daniel slid from the beast's body, landing hard, his chest heaving. He was bleeding, bruised, and barely standing but alive. The elders stared in stunned silence. Finally, the leader rose, his voice begrudging. "The human survives," the warriors murmured, their eyes flicking between Daniel and Zayara. She stepped forward, her expression fierce, her voice clear. "He does not only survive. He triumphs. He gave life when he had nothing. He stood when he could fall. He is worthy." The elder's lips curled, but he did not argue. Tradition bound him as tightly as it bound her. Then by law, the bond of water stands. Zayara descended into the arena, her steps graceful despite her wounds. She stopped before Daniel, her eyes shining. Slowly, she knelt, pressing her forehead to his chest. The gesture was intimate, sacred. "I am yours," she whispered. Daniel looked down at her, startled. His throat tightened. "Zayara, you don't have to." She rose, cutting him off with a look that silenced him. "I choose it. You gave me life. Now I give you mine." The warriors around them struck their weapons against the ground, a rhythm that echoed like thunder. Not protest, but acknowledgement. Daniel felt the weight of it all pressing down, the princess of a galactic empire, bound to him by choice and law. But as he met her gaze, he realized it wasn't just law anymore. It was something real. For the first time since the war began, he wasn't just surviving. He had found something worth living for. Zayara turned to the council, her voice ringing out. "This human is mine. And through me, he stands with the Seraph. Let the galaxy hear it. The bond of water unites us." The council fell silent. The warriors roared their approval, and in the desert ruins, beneath the rising sun, a human soldier and an alien princess stood together, not as enemies, but as something far greater,